Wonderful, wonderful, good. So we are at 01, so we're about 1 minute in. Again, thank you all for taking some time out of your day to join. I said to join Alex, Sam, and myself as your modern work team here at Sherweb. Varying roles. I think Alex is maybe the most tenured here. He's our partner program and incentive manager. I am the PSM. Not in such a way, but I didn't not call you old either. No, he's chipper as ever. I myself is a PSM, so anything enablement, kind of a little bit more cross collaboration, I guess, with our various teams internally. And then Sam, I like to say he lives in the weeds in the most respectful of ways, but all the details in regards to all the licensing, all the products that we offer for that matter as well. So if you have a chance to connect with any of these fine gentlemen, namely those two fellas, do treat yourself. For today, I'm giving you guys a real treat, and I'll be a little bit more in the background. Alex and Sam will take us through today's journey. I'll do the agenda, and I'll actually stop talking one day. But the idea and the focus is really around these security concerns around Copilot. Not to say that this is a barrier or this is a must, and you don't ever speak about Copilot without these prereqs being in place. Strongly suggested or recommended is how I might position that. There are some cases where we can be a little bit more relaxed. Again, if we're looking at really small mom-pop type organizations where some of the security foundations we live by or we should live by aren't necessarily being followed, well, maybe we don't necessarily close the Copilot door right away. But otherwise, though, we'll look at data governance and then some of the tools available from Microsoft, namely Lighthouse. You can see in points 3 and 4, how to go about, whether that be security, and even looking forward is my favorite part of this all here, is looking forward in terms of opportunities and insights available as part of the AI power of Microsoft. So that is our ordre du jour. Feel free to use the chat if you have any questions, any comments, thoughts, feedback. I will be keeping an eye on that. And with that being said, I will pass the ball to my colleague Alex to kick us off.
Yeah, so for the security concerns with AI and Copilot, first we want to address the security concerns from outside coming in. And as the old saying goes, an image is worth 1,000 words. We did find a nice little 1.5-minute video that kind of explains a little bit better how it all works together. So I think you stop sharing and reshare because of the sound, and now the video is going to play.
Microsoft 365 Copilot.
Sorry, I was muted. Doesn't work.
Is transforming work with the power of generative AI. It's built on Microsoft's comprehensive approach to enterprise-grade security, compliance, privacy.
Learn something new every day, so I can't have my camera off or my microphone. So you guys have to watch me watch this. I'm really sorry.
Identity and responsible AI. Copilot automatically inherits your organization's Microsoft 365 security, compliance, and privacy policies, so you know your data is protected and always in your control. It all starts with your Microsoft 365 tenant. Data stored in your tenant is encrypted and only available to the users within that tenant. Your existing Microsoft 365 permissions and policies ensure that data won't leak between users and groups. And Copilot users only have access to data they've been granted permission to see in Microsoft 365, using the same technology customers have relied on for years. Your tenant sits inside the Microsoft 365 service boundary, where Microsoft's commitments to security, compliance, data location, and privacy are upheld. The Copilot large language models, or LLMs, that process your data sit within that same boundary, much like other Microsoft 365 services. Microsoft does not have eyes-on access, which means no one can view your data. Your data is not used to train the LLMs. And our EU customers can be confident that their data is processed within the EU data boundary. Microsoft 365 Copilot, enterprise-grade security and privacy for the era of generative AI.
So hopefully you got the same that I got from that video. And it is something that you may want to actually use whenever your customers are asking you questions with security and compliance and data residency type of concerns in mind. So Microsoft 365 Copilot will respect everything that's already put in place when it comes to data security and residency for anything that's already there. So if you have the MFA turned on, conditional access, compliance, and all that, Copilot will respect that. And the other thing that was well illustrated in that video is that the LLMs, so like the technology behind Copilot sits within the Microsoft 365 service boundary. So there's never anything that leaves the Microsoft servers to be potentially open, to be kind of hijacked, exfiltrated, and all of that. So users shouldn't have to worry about putting in anything sensitive into those prompts, because not even Microsoft will have eyes on the data that they put in. The next one is kind of a little, the one that we see right now, it's a little picture of, kind of what's under the hood and the life cycle of a prompt, right? So it starts in the M365 apps. So if you're in Teams, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, you put in your prompt. It goes into the Copilot engine. And then there's what's called grounding. We've talked about that a little bit. So it adds context, that this is a work environment, that you're going to be asking about work type activities. Then it goes into your Microsoft Graph to see if there's any kind of relevant data files or info. And whenever you actually do a prompt, it will say that, oh, looking for relevant documents, emails, meetings, and all of that. Then it sends it to the large language model with all of that extra context added into it. And then the large language model itself will do an RAI pass. So it's retrieval augmented something. It's a new acronym from Microsoft to kind of make sure it makes sense and that it's useful for you, and will send the prompt back in the user interface for that end user to see the results of, here are the meeting notes, here's the recap for the meeting, here's the new essay blog post that you wanted to write. So it really does kind of do a whole journey in the background before you're able to see the answer. And there's some nice videos from Microsoft Mechanics that actually show the underworkings on those. So it'll show you, like, from the time you put in the prompt, all of the things and the context that are being added, the RAI that's being added later, and then the results for that. So you can oh, okay, I can see that, we start with the meat and bones, and then they add all of these extra things to it to make it more coherent. We'll be sending you a link to the deck, and the video will be available. The recording will be available later, but otherwise that video is on Microsoft Mechanics. So if you go to YouTube and put in Microsoft Mechanics, you will see this among many other videos that are more on the technical side of things for Copilot. After that, so there's three main kind of principles that we have to think about when thinking about Copilot when it comes to security. So the first one is called security. So again, can't say it enough. Anything that you've already put in place will be respected. So it's going to be kind of an inheritance for that. So if you have a customer that's into the healthcare vertical and they have a bunch of policies put in place so that health, personal health information isn't available between the users, they can't send it out by emails, adding Copilot is not going to give those users those capabilities to leak out that data or access the data that they're not supposed to access. It will respect those things. For the permission policies, this is mainly to be able to, and this is why we recommend having at least business premium or above whenever using Copilot, to make sure that your users have compliant devices, they have, MFA, conditional access is put in, and that those baseline, kind of settings are put in place. Whenever you do a search with Copilot, it will sometimes answer things like, according to the data that you have access to, according to the information and resources you have access to. So it's kind of reassures users that, the permissions are being respected. And then finally, like we saw in that little video, the data will not, it doesn't create a new data model or a new sharing model or anything like that. So anything that you've put in place, if the HR team has a Teams channel that only the HR team is able to access, anything they put in that channel, whether they upload files with chat comments or anything like that, other users will not be able to see that data. It will not leak between those users and groups. And now, more specifically on data governance and Copilot for M365, Sam, your turn.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Alex. So like I said, my name's Sam. I'm the Microsoft Licensing and Security Specialist here at Sherweb. So I'm just going to give you a couple of things to think about as we're talking about our Copilot journey. As Alex kept saying, the things what you set in your tenant is what it's going to rely on. But what exactly does that mean? And what do we need to think about? So we're going to use a couple of real life examples and some two challenges that face most SMBs today to give you an idea of what to look for. So security concerns associated with AI usage. Insufficient visibility into the usage of AI application can result in security and compliance challenges. What does that mean? So AI Hub in Purview can show you what type of AI apps are being used, what type of sensitive data prompts and different user contexts can be different for different user groups. What does that mean? So I'll give you an example. Since it uses your 365 ecosystem as a whole, it's going to rely on policies you've already made. Since it really works best with Business Premium, which has those advanced security features and labeling, why is that something to think about? So I'll give you an example. Users may inadvertently leak sensitive data to AI apps. How would that happen? So I'll give you an example. If you have, let's say, a business standard with no sensitivity labels across all of your documents, and everything gets ingested by AI, right? So Copilot is kind of like a dog in a new house. It's only going to react to its environment. If you leave a remote on the floor, it's not the dog's fault. It's your fault because you left the remote on the floor. How does this work in our general workplace practice? So I had a really bad day today, and I wanted to James doesn't seem to work as hard as I do, and I suspect he might be getting paid a little bit more. So I'm going to ask Copilot, how much does James get paid? Since we're all on business standards and we didn't want to apply any sensitivity labels, Copilot will go into my finance SharePoint library, find the salary information, find where James is, and spit that information back out to me, right? So looking at security and compliance, it's something you need to think about. You need to audit your tenant as far as what user permissions are there, what file permissions are there, because Copilot is going to react to the environment around it. So having a good security practice with labeling, DLP, user conditional access is key to your Copilot success to make sure the right information is going to the right place. So one thing I highly suggest is when you roll out Copilot, as far as testing goes, we kind of treat it like you would Intune or Enter AD if things pass. You make a small user group. So you can assign it to someone in your C-level, the most elite admin at your company. So that way, if you can test and see the vulnerabilities that exist within your tenant. So it's not creating vulnerabilities or security flaws. It's highlighting what's already there. And it's to make sure that you put the right policies in place so the information is going to the right people. So if you assign it to someone, let's say the president of the company to test it out, or your highest level admin, so if information does get crossed or you do see some vulnerabilities, it's not so mission critical versus, let's say, someone like me finding out how much Alex and James get paid. And there's tons of tools inside of Microsoft to be able to help this, right? We have Purview now. Purview is such an amazing tool that can help you manage all this. So how can Purview help with this? It can give you visibility via AI Hub, as we spoke about before. It can create an endpoint DLP for specific devices based on machine learning to see high-risk users. And it can make a DLP policy for the same user as well. So you can assign different users to be high risk, depending on their role at their company, how they're working. It will use that information and resource backend to make a decision for you. So you can use Purview as your mainline security tool as you were using in 365 to help manage Copilot, but it's based around your environment, the policies you've already created. There's a couple bird there, just rehashing what we said before. Really need drilling it down. Having a label in preparation is key for Copilot. So we're going to look at a real life example, very similar to the example I gave before. So data oversharing. Users access projects via Project Obsidian via Copilot for Microsoft 365 and extrapolate for personal gain. So Obsidian is just a big project name for this scenario. So let's say Rhonda over here is a high-risk user, and we really don't want Rhonda getting any information for Project Obsidian. So let's say Rhonda decides to do a prompt because she knows she's moving to a different company and wants to give information. What is Project Obsidian? So as soon as she does a prompt, it will detect Project Obsidian with a communication compliance. So depending on the rules and permissions set for Rhonda, Rhonda was set as a high-risk user. It will apply a sensitivity label to anything she is reading. And based on the risk assessment of Purview, it will decide whether she can view or even know the document is there. So everything that you set with Upside Entra, Copilot will use the risk assessment based on those policies to see if the user can access the data and keep it always inside the ecosystem. And that's enough scaremongering for me today. This is pretty much just to show the highlights of Copilot and what it can access and how to prepare for it. So the three main topics we want to see is to discover your sensitive data. So like we mentioned, it's not creating vulnerabilities, it's just highlighting what was already existing inside of your tenant, preventing a data leak, creating policies to ensure that nothing can leave the tenant. So good example of this, me and everyone here at Sherweb has Intune on our iPhones. There is a policy on our devices that we can't copy any information. So if I try to copy something from Teams and put into my SMS app, it will say this is protected by my organization, right? So we want to make sure that we protect the company's documents with DLP and the users with right policies, and automate your data labeling. You can have that automatic to say, like, if it includes credit card numbers, or if there's a certain keyword you'd like to use, like we use for Project Obsidian, so it'll already encrypt data when it's being sent out, making sure that high-risk users don't get into that information via Copilot prompts. Setting all your labeling and your conditional access policies before a rollout is absolutely key, so there's no unhappy messages you get in your inbox, right? Which nobody wants. Me and Alex especially.
Yeah, we don't want the white walkers to get access to Project Obsidian because Obsidian is dragon glass, and that's the thing that kills the white walkers.
Plus 99 to strength.
Yes.
So I'll let you wrap up here.
So just highlighting again, data security, data governance, risk compliance posture. This is just modern security features. I know it says include in business premium, but in my opinion, business premium should be called business standard now, just because the standards of us working post 2020 have completely changed. You know, having conditional access, having DLP, having MDM is not really a nice to have anymore. We need it, especially if my pay slip example, right? Not having labeling or control over the data once it's outside of your tenant isn't fun anymore, right? We need to make sure we get our security. And this is how you get your insurance policies as well. They're getting really strict, the insurance policies, as far as what they require, as far as controls and access with inside of a tenant. And your business premium provides uniformity. You don't have to worry about 9 different add-ons for this type of user. This person leaves, then you got to forget that you had 6 different add-ons to get billed for a year, and then you're not going to get a credit back from Microsoft. Nobody's happy, right? That's why one license, one in, one out. It has everything they need for a modern security practice, variable, mind you, but it will have everything you included to have a modern security posture, and it will work with Copilot out of the gate.
Yeah, and I think this is why we really wanted to. Thank you so much, Sam. And this is really why we wanted to bring up the security aspect of it. Obviously, we feel the hype and we appreciate and we love the calls and the meetings that we get on, the demos we get to offer to your customers as well. But what we are seeing is from some partners who aren't quite as comfortable with this side of the conversation. So, you know, generally, how do I sell AI? It's one conversation. We're building some muscles around that to be able to support you better. But even that security conversation, formally, I'd say it was largely the identity, the devices, right, as Sam mentioned a bunch of times. But we don't often think of the data as being as crucial. But really with Copilot now, it's going to drive that bus for us. So that security, data governance, more so conversation is a lot more prevalent than it might have been even for the SMBs. And again, Copilot is what's going to highlight. So it's not going to create any new gaps, but you will discover potentially all gaps by using Copilot. So just for you as our business-minded partners here, do start to incorporate this into your fiscal planning, into what you're going to be offering, because Copilot is not the license. It is the data governance. It is the business decisions are to come out of it, and how do you quantify if the return is justifiable on Copilot? like there are 5 or 6 different streams or businesses to be built around Copilot, and data governance is kind of the topic that we're focusing on today.
And it's a cool upsell opportunity, right? Because all these modern security features are required in business premium, right? So having a business, who doesn't want data governance? Who doesn't want control over the data? Especially with AI, we've all seen Terminator, Skynet is coming. So might as well have the controls in place. No one's going to say no to security, right? So if you see a bunch of people on business standard, you open the door and jam your foot in there to give the business premium. It's not because they want it or nice to have. They need it.
Yep. And if customers, kind of push back a little bit, about, well, why do I need all of this now? I didn't need it, yesterday. Well, when everyone was riding horses, there was no need for driver's licenses or speed limits or state troopers. It is a brand new technology, brand new way to work. So there's going to be things, kind of guardrails that need to be put in place. And the first one you want to put in is internally. You want to make sure your tenant is ready for that that data, not only to be able to like not be leaked out, but to be able to map it properly. So if you think about kind of an internal highway between one island of data and another island of data, if that highway is built properly, the users that want to drive back and forth will do it in record time. Whereas if they have to use the scenic route and stop at every little village, they're going to find that it doesn't save as much time. So it's not only for the risks, but it really is for the improvement of productivity by having all of the data in the right place. Like maybe you'll actually discover some opportunities for migrations with those end customers when they find out, oh, all of our customer data for the last 20 years of tire sales is actually on a file server somewhere not connected to the cloud. Let's bring that up so that we can actually have it part of the Copilot conversations, and so forth and so on.
And to Alex's point, it's a new product. We haven't even seen what it can do yet. If we look at back the beginning of days of the iPhone, what was the coolest thing it can do? You could pretend to drink a beer on your phone and you'd press everyone at a party. You show someone an app like that now, they're going to be like, okay, have a great day. The iPhone has come leaps and bounds. We have to treat Copilot like that. It's so new. We haven't seen what it can do yet, and it's only going to grow.
Remember like the Tomcat?
Mm-hmm.
that was the greatest thing. That was the coolest thing. I almost switched for that. That's super cool. And again, just I guess we'll touch on a little bit what's coming next in terms of this series of webinars, but we definitely want to share as many ideas and inspire you in as many ways as, again, it is not the transactional license. Like this is not the long road forward here. It really is these services and the support you can offer around it. Again, I'll touch on it as we wrap up here. But again, keeping that business mindset here. Let's take a look at Lighthouse. Again, this is the tool that could potentially be used to help scale, or that is the scale tool from Microsoft. And Alex, back to you.
Yeah. So for those that have tried Microsoft 365 Lighthouse, even as 1 year, as early as 1 year ago, give it another try. Try it again. Go see. You will see it is completely different. It's gone over a complete, kind of overhaul as to what is required to be able to have visibility into the tenants. So the actual service itself is not a fee. So it is available for Microsoft partners. By enabling Microsoft Lighthouse, you're not going to be charged anything. There's not any type of monthly fee just to have it active. Then you will want to have those GDAP relationships with every single one of your customers, because that is the requirement to have full visibility of those customers into that one, as close to as one as possible single dashboard. So you'll be able to see tenant configuration. You'll be able to onboard very quickly. You'll be able to kind of see all of the different alerts, anything that's not compliant across all your customers from one push of a button. You'll be able to use AI. I mean, that is still a work in progress for the AI part, but to have like insights on, next steps to protect the customer tenant. And of course, you will be able to have, it's kind of like the Intune management where you'll be able to see user, device, and data protection on there as well. The next few slides, we have a couple of kind of screenshots to show what capabilities are there. So obviously, if you have Defender for Business, which is included in Business Premium, you'll get a lot more visibility into incidents, alerts, threats, service, health for different customers. If you've used the Partner Center, like the tenant switcher in the past, you'll find a lot of those features are there as well. Or if you've used the SIP, the third-party tool that kind of helps Partner Center management, you'll see a lot of the similar capabilities put on here, but from a native platform. So it doesn't have to be integrated into anything. It is available directly into the admin center. You can kind of see those familiar screenshots, the familiar, kind of left pane with the menu and the little kind of icons and type fonts from Microsoft. One thing that's great is that it will allow you to apply default baseline policies. So as we were talking about earlier in Business Premium, you do have DLP available. You do have information protection. So you can find those baseline security policies and apply them across all those customer tenants that have Business Premium or above. Things like MFA, required device compliance, make sure there's an antivirus if it's a Windows 10 device, and other type of basic things like that. For DLP, it's things like social security numbers or social insurance numbers, credit cards numbers, and those other kind of default sensitive type things, but you can customize and add onto them. It's just very nice to have a place where all those policies are already kind of active and easily deployed.
Yeah, and the visibility across it as well, right? So you can see which orgs, even which specific users are compliant or not. So again, another screenshot here.
Yeah, this one we're doing it without a tenant selected. So this right now would be saying, there are, all of the devices are compliant across all of the different tenants. So you don't have to kind of drill down into each tenant to ask the same question. And I think in the next couple of screenshots, they show how we're able to go. I think it's the next one, sorry. And they show how you can even go into a specific tenant and now, kind of find the device. That's the one. So for threat management, you see in bold threat management right below it, there's an argument, tenants all with a down arrow. So you can see it at a glance right now, there's 50 devices overall that need antivirus updates. Oh, I think the gold tenant was one that has some. So on the next slide.
Yeah, that tagging is really awesome too. So if you really have different service tiers that you offer, well then, maybe your golds and your silvers as examples there, but being able to have that filter, that overall view, and then be able to jump to the corresponding admin center within that customer as well without needing to re-log in. Another thing to say, it's worth its weight in gold here.
I think I have no voice left, so I think you're going to have to take over, James, for the next part. But you did mention that you wanted to talk about it. So
I think it's an awesome tool, and again, I like the business side of it. I like the scalability that comes with a tool like this. So just be able to do something and not have to. Again, like I think it's extremely painful to say the least to jump into a tenant or to have this individual access per tenant and logging in, logging out. This is a great tool. I saw that question pop up there. Sorry, in regards to training for Lighthouse, there are a couple of webinars. I wouldn't go as far as to say there's a training. Believe it or not, this is largely the amount of collateral we were able to obtain in regards to Lighthouse. But similar to Copilot, we can have a boot camp, we can have a training and all the webinars and blogs in the world. Go and take a look and you'll see maybe some inspiration could be found through the webinars, blogs, etc. But once you go in, you can kind of look at the user settings and the options within. I think that's where a lot of light bulbs are going to go on. And again, you can see some of the options here from device state, the antivirus updates, the protections, the scans. So like there are different baskets, if you will. And again, it's the idea is to give you a high level view with the ability to drill down specifically really into the device without needing to navigate through multiple portals or tenants, and even affect these changes, again, to multiple tenants at a time. Sure. Was yeah, something to...
Me, no, I just want to be here still, even though I can't really talk anymore.
Yeah, it's been hectic. I think Alex, Sam, and I all had a couple of rough days last week. We were saying, I don't know if it's Copilot siphoning our life here, but
No,
yeah, conversation. Yeah, and children bringing home. Yeah, they bring home lots of fun. But yeah, so the other side of Lighthouse, and I think this is maybe one of my favorite parts. A grain of salt, right? With anything. It's not all that glimmers is gold, so to speak. That being said, it is a way that you can find opportunities, you can find potential, even if it's just a question of talking points, some that even we, as we manage, right, as we have rapport with your individual organizations, oftentimes we don't want to call and just say, hey, this is the product of the month, so to speak. Really want to bring value every time we do get a chance to connect with you, and we do get some of your time. So similarly here, I'd say Copilot can help you, and I'll say, but I'll semi-read here, in terms of identifying opportunities within your base. But really, it can give you some valid talking points. So you're not just calling and checking in, kind of this open-ended, hey, how is everything? And presumably everything's great when there's money attached. So we can kind of get away from that very vague and just touching base and, hey, how's it going? But really get a little bit more pointed. And Copilot is a great way, or Lighthouse rather, for 365. I see the Copilot logo everywhere. Is a great way. And the AI within Microsoft can help us to kick over some of these proverbial rocks, or really to help us understand what's underneath them without us really need to get our hands too dirty. Again.
Yeah,
so to speak.
And one thing that you can do as well, like let's say you listen to this webinar and you figured out, wow, I need to move all my customers off of business standard because business premium is really the new kind of standard. Well, you'll be able to, with one click of a button, see all of your customers that would be eligible to upgrade to business premium. Cumulus is an awesome platform at Sherweb, but it would still take time to drill down into each organization to see which licenses that they have. It's like, oh, we already upgraded those guys to premium. Oh, these guys are on E3 already. Oh, these guys are in Exchange One Plan 1. It takes a lot of time. It's a lot of manual work, whereas with Lighthouse, you see it all right away.
And I think even to one up that, it's not even just a question of seeing who's eligible for an upgrade. Is everyone's eligible to be upgraded, let's say, to an E5 as a really simple example there, and the dream of all our bosses. But really what we see is that, hey, this business standard user seems to have multiple devices, and we don't see an endpoint protection, or we don't see Defender for Business as part of their service currently. Here's a talking point. So it's not just go and do the upgrade, or go suggest or propose the upgrade and speak to the value of business premium, along with all the assets, social media campaigns, email templates, and so on that are provided within Lighthouse. But really, here's the why. So more than here's an opportunity, it is here's the opportunity, here's why it's an opportunity, and here's supporting collateral to go and engage with your customer by whatever medium is more familiar to you or your process or to them. But again, so it's finding the opportunity and the next steps. I think it's really what makes this special. It's essentially a marketing, it's like having SQL or sales qualified leads, but really good leads that are informed by data points within your customer base. And there is even talk of some net new customer potential there. So like, I have to dig into exactly what that meant. I just heard on a webinar about an hour ago, and I was half in and half eating. But the idea was that I'd imagine it's going to be more from, let's say, a frontline, from a kiosk type service to, hey, there's a little bit more usage here, and maybe this warrants a more complete license. So There are various signals that Microsoft will leverage. And then just some data points from the channel. I think we were looking at 192 million. Gosh, I don't know if this is Canada or US, so pretty useless stat here. I'm sorry. But in terms of the addressable market for what concerns Copilot in particular, this is the Copilot webinar as part of a Copilot series. So this is where the focus is. That being said, you will find Defender for Business opportunities within Lighthouse. You'll find other upsell motions. You will find whether that be upsell, growth opportunities, all within there. So again, it's a single hub for anyone who is a Microsoft partner. Do indulge or do take a spin. Again, you'll see it. It's formerly known as Project Orlin. I feel like most things at Microsoft are formally known as because someone there gets paid to spin that wheel and change some names. But it is, again, available through your partner center. If not, then lighthouse.microsoft.com. And again, start to leverage AI, right? So we're talking about Copilot, the security and the data that's available in terms of our data governance. And again, thanks, Sam, for jumping in there. But now leveraging the Microsoft AI and data, again, to be more sales positive, to look forward for what concerns your existing base and even potential new customers from there. Good. So just kind of to do a high level summary for today. But to Alex's point, the way that we can help you get the best out of your Microsoft partnership is by, again, guiding you towards one of those solution designations, and then reaping the full rewards. And again, E5s are not given, as I imagine many of you know. So really having that under your belt, again, leveraging Copilot is going to be the way where you're going to find the most success for what concerns the sale, the learning, the adoption, how to go about establishing this practice within your business as well, because it really is not a transaction, or we hope it isn't, as we just don't feel that's going to be the long-term strategy, but really all the services that go around it, right? Like anything Microsoft, and with all due respect to them, we're not making 80% margins on the licensing, right? So the services are where our partners are finding success. We're going to be a lot more forthcoming in that regard. Namely, in our next webinars, we'll be looking at something next month. It does look like it's going to be the 20th at the same time as today, so March 20th. But the idea there will be heavily around, well, how can you as MSPs, how can you as our partners get a better feel for Copilot? If you do have a chance, if you do have the financial means, so to speak, to swing a couple of those licenses, do play around, do leverage Copilot. So this is the formerly Bing Chat named Copilot. Get familiar with AI in general, and get familiar with prompting. Like, this is really the key to the future. But again, our next session in this series here will be around how can you better leverage it? How can you optimize maybe some of your processes, or how can you streamline some of your day-to-day by leveraging AI, and namely Copilot for 365, some go-to-market strategies, as well as some of the business opportunities that we see. And like Sam mentioned there, we see maybe 5 or 10, right? We see some. There are so many more that we haven't even really even conceptualized just yet, but we'll share kind of a short list of the most, the low-hanging fruits, so to speak, coming up in March. And then April 5th, we're bringing in some friends. But the idea there is to say you've heard of Copilot, and there's a Copilot Studio, which is probably one of the cooler things, in my opinion, or one of my favorite parts of it all. If we have more info around Copilot for security, we'll take a look at maybe Copilot in Power BI or some of the Power Platform, Copilot for sales, what that means, what that looks like. So we've been focusing on Copilot for 365. Again, this is where we see a lot of the demand, a lot of the input, a lot of the intake so far, but understanding that that's a small piece of the pie, and really AI throughout modern work is really the way to look at this again. So we'll keep going. We'll surely even have more after that as we get to learn more between now and then. And then Alex and myself, and most likely Sam, will be heading out on the road to Montreal, or I guess not too far from me, but Philadelphia and Hollywood, Florida, mainly in May and June, to deliver a 2-day boot camp. So this is really going to be from A to Z or A to Z, depending on what side of the board you're on. We're going to be looking at all things Copilot, tidbits of what we saw in the webinar series 2 so far, but then we'll actually have 2 days. So getting some of your feedback and again, diving deeper, whether that be into Entra, Defender for Business, Purview. We definitely have a nice chunk of the day carved out for that. The deployment behind Copilot, use cases, MSP use cases, MSP sales tools, end user use cases, and on and on and on. Any feedback, any suggestions or things that you'd like to see more around Copilot, send those in. We are still finalizing the content there and would love to have it as complete as what our base would need. The registration link, again, will be shared with the content of the deck here, normally the next couple of days. And then more to come, again, right? So we have a Copilot guide coming out. We have various blog posts. We have a landing page as well. But you can always circle back and watch some of our previous recordings coming up. To Cameron, who just chimed in here, Shirley. I think what happened here is that Microsoft's fiscal, just a little inside baseball here for what it's worth, their fiscal year runs from July to June. So these are initiatives we have lined up with Microsoft's fiscal, so we're just until June for this round. But yes, absolutely, Sam and I were out in Calgary and in Vancouver. And I guess Chicago is not so West Coast, but we were out there last year. And we definitely absolutely do intend to do the rounds again and connect with you again. I can tell you from experience, I learned so much doing the MSPs. Thank you, John. I got that wrong, but thank you so much. We learned so much from being on their own and connecting with you from all the calls we get to be a part of with you. We get to learn its areas and angles we don't necessarily consider as our first reflex. So keep us honest, keep the questions coming, and the content's going to get that much more valuable. Is really my and our dream here collectively. Whoa, that's a lot of talking. I'm really sorry to make you guys listen to all that. I think that's it, unless there's any questions. John did correct the link that is in there, so cdx. Oh, so close, John, transform. But together, you and I, John, we're going to get it right. No, thank you so much. There we go. Yeah, Sam got it. Awesome. So yeah, so that's the sandbox environments essentially through CDX there. Even just to transform, we found various marketing collateral. There is an entire Copilot page, take you through the conceptualization and the market opportunities, to learning and developing your practice, to go into market, and there's links galore. So do pop around for anything else in between. Sam, James, Alex, Anne-Marie, and team here, thank you so much for making time for us once again. Stay informed, keep us honest. If there's anything else that comes up in between, really don't be shy. So we're what we're here to do and what we're happy to do for you guys and girls. That being said, wonderful afternoon to one and all, and see you in the next session.
Have a wonderful day, everyone.